to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Well, the BBC is facing a storm over its reporting of US President Donald Trump after a leaked internal review accused the public broadcaster of completely misleading viewers with a heavily edited video. As the controversy deepens, the White House, already locked in battle with much of the American media, is turning up the heat on the British national broadcaster. Here's how the footage looked before and after the BBC edit.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Joining me now from London is Talk TV host Mark Dolan. Mark, who's getting sacked for this?
Well, if only heads would roll. At the moment, the Director General is still in post. In fact, he's in hiding, as are the Board of Governors of the BBC. Your viewers will be astonished to hear, James, the British citizens pay in the region of $360 a year for the privilege of watching the BBC. If you own a TV set, you have to pay the license fee. You go to jail if you don't. And what we're doing is paying for political propaganda. Some on the left have suggested that this was an oversight, it was an error in the edit. Far from it. This was politically motivated, and the proof of that is that the two parts of Trump's speech were many minutes apart, in the region of 40 minutes apart, and they used some background footage to cover the edit points so that viewers would be under the illusion that Trump had made those remarks sequentially. It's a huge scandal. It's a diplomatic incident because now the White House has stepped in and are describing our national state broadcaster as fake news BBC. And James, who could disagree with them?
Well, you couldn't disagree at all. I mean, it's worse than fake news. It's absolute propaganda and lies. And it's not just in relation to Trump. This leaked dossier talks about the fact that the BBC have actively favoured Hamas propaganda over Israel. And even in the reporting of things like gender ideology, they have manipulated reporting so that it's very one-sided. How big, I mean, we can sit here and be all outraged by it. How big is this scandal in the UK? And is it the sort of thing that will result in dramatic change at the BBC, or will it ultimately just sort of be brushed over and we'll just move on and the same thing will keep happening?
No, I think, James, that the BBC is dying a slow death. First of all, the aforementioned license fee, which is a colossal amount of money, is no longer justified. It's the network, the BBC Radio TV, is institutionally left-wing. It is absolutely in the grip of woke ideology, and the public have had enough of it. They don't want to pay to be lectured, and they don't want to pay for, as you've rightly described, material and footage, which is propaganda, which is a pack of lies. So first of all, the funding model for the BBC is in peril. People are actually voting with their feet. They're not watching the BBC. Many don't pay the license fee. Our last Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has actually said, send me to jail. I'm not paying until they sorted this mess out. And as you said, it's not an isolated situation. You've got the gender ideology which is being peddled, which is social engineering. So they've had lots of storylines in the soap operas about how great it is to be trans. Fine. Listen, James, it's a free country. You know, if you're a guy and you want to identify as Sheila rather than Bob, then good luck to you. But what you can't have is the BBC peddling a narrative that somehow, you know, this is public opinion, that there are 100 genders and that you can wake up in the morning and decide, I'm a lady today. Now, that's the messaging of the BBC. That's completely wrong. And gender critical feminists, those are the people who think there are just two sexes, they've been silenced.
Joining me now is former White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. Mick Mulvaney, look, as one of the Sky News reporters in the UK said, Donald Trump doesn't beat around the bush. He certainly didn't with that Truth Social post as well. He was happy to see the back of those bosses. I would say a BBC documentary wouldn't have a massive impact on the American population, though, would they, in terms of influence?
No, we wouldn't see it, although some outlets might pick it up in snippets and so forth. But I think this, if you take the politics out of it, to the extent you can take the politics out of anything these days, if you travel in Europe, Laura, and I do a lot for work, I'm always stunned at the level of coverage. I gave a speech right before the election in the UK and asked the people right before the election who thought that Donald Trump actually had a chance to win. Maybe in a room of 500 people, 4 or 5 people raised their hands. The bias is extreme. There's no question about it. In this particular circumstance, the BBC apparently admitted to stitching together fragments of speeches, of different parts of a speech in order to make Donald Trump look bad. You shouldn't be able to do that when you're in the news. That's an opinion piece. That's not news. And look, I hate that folks lose their jobs, but it sounds like they weren't doing a very good job in the first place. Yeah,
I find British politics and usually the British broadcasting rules a little bit curious as well. Remember that BBC host that also corrected herself when she said, in the script had written pregnant people, and she said women and kind of rolled her eyes. Now, the regulator has found that she broke the rules of impartiality. That's just extraordinary.
You know, I'm on the BBC a good bit. They have been very fair to me, more fair than, say, other British outlets and so forth. But the bias is real. I'm just glad it's sort of all getting sort of hashed out. It'd be nice to be able to turn on the news and get news as opposed to turn on the news and get opinion.
Yeah. Very well said. Let's talk about the shutdown now. There's a lot of opinion around about this and whose fault it is. But are we getting close to the end of that shutdown, and what kind of effects are you seeing? Is it mostly in travel?
Yeah, as soon as I said that about opinion, I'm getting ready now to give you my opinion. Yes, you're seeing it in travel a good bit. These difficulties in our air traffic are compounding every single day. Today was an extraordinarily bad day in Atlanta, which is a large city. I think it's the largest airport in the country and the hub for Delta Airlines. It will take them many days to recover from that under the best of circumstances, and this is not the best of circumstances. So you thought that maybe other federal workers not getting paid might be a turning point. It wasn't. You thought that some of our food stamp dietary assistance payments not going out would be a turning point. It wasn't. This seems to be the turning point. All the indications are, Lauren, I just got off a phone call about half an hour ago, is that there's a deal that is being discussed now in the Senate that would allow the government to open by the end of next week.
Okay, end of next week. So what kind of movement are we going to see between now and then?
Yeah, well, the key is going to be some agreements on whether or not there'll be a vote on Obamacare, something the Democrats have asked for. About these reductions in forces that you and I have talked about in the past with the Trump administration trying to fire a bunch of federal workers. The Democrats want certain assurances about that. There's a couple other things here and there, but they need about 8 or 9 Democrats to vote for this bill, and they think they might be able to get there. My guess is we'll know a lot more in the next 24 hours.